This is the Automotive Repair Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, Carm Capriotto, Remarkable Results Radio, another Town Hall Academy. Good to have you here. Hey, look, something that's been interestingly on my mind of late. I wrote a blog recently, Stop Calling Us Installers. Please go to that. I think it was sometime in June 8th of 2026. And I just want to be able to say, please go and read it. But too many times I am hearing the word, the installers in our industry. And I'll tell you that if I set 100 automotive service professionals in front of them and I said, you're just installers, they would probably lynch me, because we don't do rugs, we don't do windows, and we don't do roofs. But probably 50 years ago, we used to get parts and install them because it was so easy to look under the hood and figure out what was wrong. And today, we're diagnostic professionals, we're technology specialists. And so getting it off my chest is something I'm looking for you, my audience, to step up. And every time you would hear, especially from your suppliers, because the suppliers, they think you guys are installers, that we in the industry that repair vehicles are installers. And I'm here to say we aren't. So listen, do me a favor. And one other thing, I'm sorry to tempt you with all of this stuff. I hate when we're called mom and pops. People are trying to say, well, if you don't go to a dealer, you must go to a mom and pop. And the hair on the back of my neck stands up and I have to sit this. I said, come over here, sit down, be nice. Don't say anything. I need to fix this for you. Because the people that I know in the industry that have these multi-zillion dollar businesses with great cultures, incredible teams and staff, happy clients and customers, bigger and better than the dealers, are not mom and pops. And that's part of the... Anyway, I'm over that. Thank you for listening. I have an incredible show today on AI. Oh, Carm, geez, we just don't need another show on AI. Because in the last 6 months, I've done 6 of these shows from all different perspectives. And I'll tell you exactly what all of those are when I get a chance to tell you about our cool listening app. You go to arpn.app. And it's all in one place. Everything that you can possibly ever want from a listening app. You can save favorites, create your own list. You can share it with other people. You can read the show notes. You could link to the videos. It's all on our app, arpn.app. We couldn't do this if we didn't have these tremendous partners. So yeah, we do thank NAPA Tracks, today's class, KUKUI, and Pit Crew Loyalty. Hey, did you know that NAPA Tracks has on-site training plus 6 days a week support? It all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Let us prove to you that Tracks is the single best shop management system in the business. Find NAPA Tracks on the web at napatracs.com. Hey, how well does your team know their stuff? Test their automotive skills with the Today's Class Basic, Advanced, or Service Advisor quizzes. It's a quick, effective way to spot gaps and grow stronger teams. Take the quizzes now at todaysclass.com/TC quiz. Shop owners, stop juggling multiple marketing tools. KUKUI's integrated platform, they deliver 4 times better website conversions, automated follow-up, and real-time ROI tracking. Get industry-leading customer support with KUKUI. That's KUKUI.com. You're probably tired of chasing new customers who never return. We understand. Pit Crew Loyalty ends the one-and-done cycle, turning first visits into lasting, reliable revenue. On the web at pitcrewloyalty.com. A show on AI, guys. I'd like to introduce my team here. Brian Weeks is here, ATC Auto Center, 2 locations, Augusta and Grovetown, Georgia, along with his brother, Chris. Hey, Brian.
Carm, good to see you. It's been a while and appreciate you inviting me on.
And I appreciate you bringing me this topic. Yes, guys, it was Brian.
You didn't have to tell him that.
It was Brian who wrote me, and I sent out a survey, and he wrote back, and he goes, I didn't see this on your list, Carm, but listen, we got to talk about this. And I looked at him, and I read his note. And his note basically said this: with AI taking over the world, people are getting to where they don't know what to believe. Does a professional connection with your customers win in the end? And I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways with that. Jon Kloosterman is here, who's been on the show before, Director of Operations, West Side Auto Group, 7 locations. What's so amazing, before we turned on the mic, I said every time I invite a multi-shop operator on to the show, I says, anything new in the last 30 days that didn't make it to the website? And he goes, of course, we have another store. Now they have 7 in the Elgin, Zeeland, Holland, Gateway, Grand Rapids area of Michigan.
Yeah, Carm, thanks for having me. Glad to be back on.
And it's your 50th anniversary there.
50 years this year. Long time.
I was there in 76. I got married that year. I know. I'm only 52, but I was a young child in an arranged marriage. Alex is here, founder of OnRamp, a voice AI for auto technicians. This guy is a geek. The reason he's on is because no matter what John and Brian say, Alex is going to fix them. Because Alex knows AI inside and out. He's a lifelong gearhead, which makes him qualified to be here. He grew up in Silicon Valley. He worked for tech startup companies, and he's excited. He's got this really cool launch, GetOnRamp.io, voice AI for auto technicians. And I said, it's got to fit in this group. It's just got to fit.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you inviting me, Carmen. Decided to be here. And I don't think I'm fixing anything. This is probably going to be more of a learning experience for me than anything else, but also excited to bring sort of my tech perspective to this. I spent 20 years in tech startups and a multi-time entrepreneur, and I'm really excited about what we're building at OnRamp and the potential it has.
And I love it. And you know what I just heard him say? I know what's under the covers. Think about it. Because, I'm sorry, we don't know 92% of how it works, what's under the covers, what we should ask for, what profiles are, and how we need to have AI become our friend. Now, one of the episodes that we've done recently, please go to my website, type in quote AI space quote, and you'll see all the episodes that come out on AI. Because if you just type in AI, you're going to get a lot of garbage. But AI space quote. We did an episode recently, The AI-Driven Leader, with Chris Cloutier, and it was a great book that I read, and I couldn't put it down. And it really, what's your responsibility, your link as a leader of a business, and how should AI be there to help you? And it really blew my mind as to the control that we really do have over AI and how we can get it and how we can learn to trust what it's telling us. But we have to, it'll tell you anything you want to hear, but we have to make sure we set the rails, if you will, up. We've done episodes on AI search visibility, from data to loyalty. We've done episodes on AI is changing everything in marketing. We did an episode in 2020, 6 years ago, called AI and the Autonomous Vehicle. And we just thought AI was just kind of a cool, like Toy Story 2, right? And we also did future-proofing our industry. And so we've actually incorporated AI into our discussions. So Brian, again, thank you so much for being here. Your biggest and most important talking point was about the more fake the words get, the more a real human is worth. That rocked my socks.
Well, I mean, if you think about what's happening, and I don't have exact numbers, but half of what you see online on the internet everywhere is what? I mean, I called it fake, but it's not from a human. And how do you discern between what that is and what real life is? You know, we've been in this business. Our dad to his brother started back in 72. So I've grown up in this business. It was always word of mouth, and it's a relationship. We're relationship people, you know, and the biggest question that I have is, where do those two lines meet? And then where do they separate? And I feel like at the end, people don't know what to believe anymore. But what they can't deny is a face-to-face, person-to-person contact. You can use AI tools to do a ton of things to really make you a lot more efficient. But in the end, it's a human connection that creates the trust that our customers deserve.
I agree with that, Brian. And when you start looking at the amount of information that clients have access to and what they have to discern before they even pick up the phone to call us, they already have preconceived notions before they even get to us. And then your counter staff, I mean, you talk about the experience that is needed from the service counter at this point in our industry, and how important it is for them to disarm some of the questions that they're getting based on information that they're getting from sources all over the place. And they have more information than they've ever had. And consumer sentiments are lower than they ever have been because people don't know what to believe. And at the end of the day, we still have to, there's a lot of information on how to get to a solution or answering questions about the cars that these consumers are driving. But we still have to put hands on the vehicles. And then we have to use educated people on the service counter to create those relationships and then discern through all the information that's getting thrown everywhere.
I love what he just said. I got to stop and add something to it. We're talking about self-doctoring. We're going to go and says, it hurts here. What should I do about it? It's pink, it's black, it's blue, it's all this stuff. And you start reading and again, oh, it's nothing. And maybe that's not the right answer, but that's the one maybe you were looking for. And this whole self-diagnosing thing when it comes to our vehicles. We're always looking. I got a plumbing problem. What could it possibly be? I only want to spend $25. Somebody's going to charge me $1,000. I know it. And the thing that I love what you also said, Jon, is we have to build that trust. AI is getting in the way of trust, it seems to me.
One of your talking points too, Jon, was and I love the fact that you compared it to like a WebMD. You could have a splinter in your foot and look it up on WebMD and I'm sorry, I've got 30 days to live. It's over, right? So it's a matter of being able to be right there and put a human being in the spot of knowing, because the discernment side of it is where I feel like that AI and human beings separate. So
yeah, to Brian's point about, the volume of content that gets created, AI slop is what a lot of it is. And I would venture to say it's a lot more than 50% even at this point, if you've been on Instagram recently. And the more AI slop fills the space and people consume it, the more rare the actual human connection becomes. But there's something that's very true about when things become rare, they become more valuable. And that human premium is a differentiating factor. And it's always been a differentiating factor in automotive service centers, especially the ones that Carm doesn't want us calling mom and pops. It's a big reason why people go to regional, local, and perhaps let's call them smaller, but excellent businesses that focus on that customer service. And so the human connection and the willingness to build operating systems that enable you just to focus on that human connection is probably the biggest competitive edge one can create in this space, because that's not going to change. Humans will be a premium and appreciated by people always.
And I think there's a significant space for AI in this industry. You start looking at how efficient you can make your team or your business from a logistics standpoint or a back end with your technicians teams, and even looking at some of the stuff that's coming out that is able to do some quoting and stuff like that. You still need checks and balances on that stuff. But anything that can give you more time with your client, which is, to Alex, your point, is at a premium, anything that can create more time to give your service team is a huge benefit to your business. And I think that there's a huge spot for that in the automotive space. But as a business owner and as someone that is looking at your current business, you need to know where to invest that time and effort and money into your business and where it makes sense to have those AI platforms.
I would actually also add that I think, people's expectations of the types of customer service or the types of technology they see people using, it continues to go up, right? If you encounter somebody who's operating automotive repair shop and doesn't have a website these days, it's going to raise a lot of questions. I think a lot of consumers, that would start to actually damage your trust in that entity, that organization. And so where you can adopt technology that helps you serve customers better and customers see you using it that way, that's also a trust building mechanism, I think.
I agree. I think what really backs that up is you basically let the machine handle all the volume and the human handles the relationships. And Jon, you're right, man. There is, to be able to automate estimating and things, you're basically going to have people that are going into review mode. Instead of doing all the busy work, they're going to do more reviewing, just like you said. And that time doesn't take near as much as it does building, like an If we can review it, it's quick. It gives you more time for that face-to-face contact with the customer.
Let's face it, your shop management system is the single most important tool in your shop, period. NAPA Trax was built from the ground up to make your business more profitable and efficient. We provide an extensive set of tools to increase and track profitability in real time. NAPA Trax offers the industry's best post-sale support, hands down, and we train your people on site. Yep, on site. And we offer remote refresher training 10 times a week, and customer support is open 6 days a week. Give us a call, visit the website, or join our Facebook community today to learn more. We'll prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. NAPA Trax is always customized and tailored for you, whether you're a one-man shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Visit us on the web at NAPATrax, that's NAPATRACS.com. Transform your team with today's class, where automotive training is easy, quick, and fun. Just 5 minutes a day on our app can eliminate hours of looking up forgotten information later. It's perfect for technicians, advisors, and managers alike. Keep critical knowledge fresh and top of mind, ensuring your team operates at peak efficiency. Today's class is impactful, accessible from anywhere, and a bit of fun too, and we're not talking about after-hours pizza either. For training that gets results, turn to todaysclass.com. Shop owners, we know you are overwhelmed with a flood of missed calls, empty bays, and disconnected marketing tools. KUKUI has spent over a decade building one integrated platform for auto repair shops, one login, one dashboard, and mobile-first websites that convert 4 times industry average. Smart, innovative CRM with automated follow-up, 24/7 online booking, and real-time ROI tracking. With 900 plus years of combined team experience, we fuel the growth of 2,200 plus shops and have influenced $3 billion in revenue. Stop working harder. Start working smarter. Get industry-leading customer support and book a demo with KUKUI. That's KUKUI.com. You know, most shop owners feel trapped spending on ads while half their first-time customers never come back. It's frustrating. It's exhausting. And it's not your fault. The industry average is 54% one and dones. We understand how discouraging that can be. Well, Pit Crew Loyalty changes the story. Our clients cut that rate by up to 38%, raising lifetime value by more than 50%. Loyalty members visit nearly 3 times more often, creating predictable revenue without extra ad spend. Pit Crew Loyalty, where customers stay and shops thrive. On the web at pitcrewloyalty.com. There's this moment when a service advisor says, I wish I had more time to spend with Mrs. Jones. I just wish we could have just talked a little further about what's going on with her family and stuff, because we do know what's going on with them, but we're so overwhelmed with all of these chores. And I do totally love some of the software that is coming out that I am seeing that is AI app, if you will, driven, intelligent, smart, AI-driven apps that are going to help and getting some of that, if you will, grind done. But again, it has to be accurate, it has to be smart, and it's got to be able to communicate with whoever the operator is in an intelligent way so we feel comfortable with it.
You know, it's funny, you go back to the old days, a pen and a piece of paper, and you didn't think you had time. But now you have this balance between how many programs you have and how many you have to manage. And that in and of itself is absorbing so much time to where you could make one little note and you did have that face-to-face contact, but we're not in that world anymore. Now, 8, 10, 12 or more computer programs have to be managed. And that's where I feel like we've got to take a transition of not having to physically manage each one of those programs, let AI manage those in the background because each one has a specific task. But again, it's a time and efficiency manner that you could allow the machine to do to give you more face-to-face contact.
It's also a kind of a catch-22, though, Brian, when you look at, and Alex, you probably understand this better than any of us on this call, when you look at how quickly AI is changing from month to month. I mean, in the last 6 months, I'll bet you I've looked at 3 to 6 different AI platforms that bolt on to the point of sale systems that we have. And every one of them does things just a little bit differently, or they add another advantage to your team, but they all come at a cost. And you can't keep adding stuff and then ripping it away for your team's continuity. They're going to get frustrated because you're constantly changing the platform and what you're trying to give to your client. This is something that we're going to have to be extremely aware of moving forward as you try to maneuver through this. And then you look at it from the standpoint of your teams too. And if we're putting all this knowledge over to these AI platforms and asking it to do the things that we once did, training on your counterstaff is going to be even more important because they're not learning as they go, as they're in it doing some of the tasks of estimating and some of that stuff. If that's gone, then where are they getting some of that experience of it if you're getting somebody that's new in the industry?
Go ahead.
One of the things we hear from folks a lot is like, oh, technicians, they hate adopting new things. Right? They're not going to use this thing you're building. I think that if you put software and, programs and things that people have to do that are not increasing their productivity and helping them get the things done that they need to get done so they can go home to their family, they're going to drag their heels. So every new document this here, look this up there, make sure that this is recorded here. Software you put in front of a technician, they're rolling their eyes. They do not want another thing they have to do to log what they're doing. Instead, if you look at like DTC code scanners, right, they love using those. That's a technology that actually gets them to the information that they need because it helps them do their actual job. Flip that on its head, put that back at the front of the house. Any technology that can help, service writers, the service center managers, anybody interfacing with the customers, not have to do the busy work so that they can focus on that relationship. That's putting the human where it should be in that loop and empowering them to do their job well. And that they'll adopt all day long.
Look at everything through the lens of theory of constraint. You look not too long ago, the smartest, one would say, most intelligent, richest entrepreneur on the planet, Elon Musk, he said, automate, and had a problem and turned around and had to put people back in place. So using his own algorithm, he got outside of that, and it came down to a fact of it became inefficient and the results weren't where they needed to be. And you still had to put people into place. And you're right, Alex, you have to be able to have the efficiency of the programs and things that you use. It has to be easier. It has to make more efficiency.
We run a monthly call with our point of sale system. And when they come out with new products, that we use it from the standpoint of clicks. Is this going to eliminate clicks for my team? And if it's not, I don't want to know about it because we're at the pinnacle of the amount of information that we can give to a customer before we start taking away our opportunity and time with either over the phone interaction or face-to-face interaction. And if my team has to spend more time putting more stuff together from a point of sale system or AI or anything, those things, it has to start shaving time. We spend too much time putting estimates together and documentation. So if we're not moving the other direction, I don't want to hear about it because we don't have any more time in the day.
One of the things too, circling back to what you said earlier, is not giving your people whiplash. What are we going to do today? What are we going to do tomorrow? Oh, John's changed something else on me. Holy cow. And then they just throw their hands up, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. And that's that.
But it's new and it's better and it's this and it's that.
You don't understand. This is going to make us heroes.
Right. It's so exciting. You see all this stuff that's coming out and it's like, it's exciting to see a new product, but you can't do them all.
Hey, boss, is this a new flavor of M&M peanut? What is this?
Yeah, spending a huge majority of my career in the Silicon Valley and tech startup scene, people are always grasping at what is the newest, latest thing. And so the leaders of those organizations always have to try and balance that experimental mindset of wanting to see what's coming out, be on the leading edge of it, extracting the value while that opportunity is there without overwhelming, constantly switching processes, tools every 5 days. And John, you mentioned, you said a moment ago, it feels like something changes every month, hourly at this point in this industry. It is right. Every single hour there is news in the AI space that changes everything. I mean, you can literally go from one day to the next and your entire workflow and how you're doing things will change. The last 6 months of my life have absolutely disappeared into AI coding agents and into like new tools and video content creation stuff. But I look back at what I've created in the last 6 months, it's absolutely staggering. So now I don't have a team below me that's like a massive team that I have huge processes all around that I'm constantly disrupting. But yeah, if you've got a service center operation, you can't just be changing the way you do things every 5 days. So that's where that experimental mindset's going to come into play of, okay, what might an opportunity be? How are other people using it? How can I test this in a small environment, deploy it? And then if that works, how do I roll it out to the rest of my team?
Hey guys, I got to stop you for a moment because what I'm hearing that I like, and Jon, I'm going to go to you for this. When you have your call to see what's new in the computer AI, whatever space that is it your team that is going to help you make the decision? Because you've got to have buy-in. Just because Jon likes this and thinks it's a cool little thing, then you have to go and you have to sell hard, change systems, processes. How would it work internally? How's it work internally?
Well, I mean, two things. One, we'll implement it in one location, and it's always a location that I know, based on the situation and the type of product it is, I know that there's certain people in the store that will give it its best shot. And then two, I'm not going in on any year-long contracts because it's, to Alex's point, apparently it changes hourly, so maybe that's the type of contract we need for some of these products.
Monthly on-ramp.
We got something new.
Yeah, let it be clear. It's at least monthly on on-ramp.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes.
But I mean, like our point of sale system talks about having a product come out and you do a bolt on, and then the next month your point of sale system comes out with the same product. Well, now you have a duplicate that you're paying for. And so, I mean, that stuff from that standpoint, it's changing all the time. But as far as implementation, we'll do an adoption in one location. And if there's a benefit that we can see throughout the course of the month, sometimes multiple months, we'll start adopting it slowly into other stores. When we changed over our point of sale systems, this was 6 years ago, we did all the locations at once, and I don't ever want to do that again, and I don't recommend that to anyone. Noted. So, yeah, a lot of phone calls and headaches.
And it's a leadership question. You're creating a culture in the organization, like, explain to everybody, hey, look, we are in a period of time that is going to be filled with change, and things are going to change really, really quickly. And as an organization, to get where we want to go, we need to be on top of that change, slowly embracing it, testing things, and setting that expectation among folks that, hey, look, we're going to test some stuff and it's not going to be perfect. Some people are going to be more, like Jon obviously has folks in his organization that he can do that with. And we all know the folks in our organizations where you're like, that's the last person that we just got to give them what works. They're not going to play ball with experimentation, but it's creating a culture around being willing to also test things, but also give feedback when things are not working. People are very scared to do that, to say something's not working because they think their boss is going to get mad at them, but letting them know it's okay to say when things are or are not working.
Well, to follow that up, your team is not going to out-adopt their leader. So you can't have a situation of what I'll call leadership lag. In other words, sitting back and just waiting. You have to be looking at these products, studying these products, and then bringing that to the team and it's not a democracy, but it is still having buy-in, like both of you have said. But don't wait on some of your people to bring things to you because they won't. And then you'll get left behind.
I think about peer groups, and someone in the peer group says, hey, I just got this really neat, new, cool piece of software, and you want to be like him. So you decide to get it, and here we go. It's just not a fit for your company, your culture, your systems, your policies, your community, your client trust. I think part of the big takeaway I'm believing in this episode is buyer beware, and see if whatever, all these neat, new, cool tools that are coming out hourly, Alex, I've always said this. I says, oh, my software's got this really neat, new, cool tool. I says, well, no, this software, I think I'm going to change to it because they do this. And I said, your company's going to have it in 30 days. That's how it is. I don't think there's that much one-upmanship in the world of software. It may have a different colored tie and a suit coat, but it's all going to be, dressed to kill.
Except on-ramp, right, Carm? No, I'm just
That's right.
It's a beauty. It's almost an embarrassment of riches, right? Because, and I hope I'm not freaking anybody out by saying it changes hourly. All the back-end tools and all the deep AI stuff that we're using, that stuff is actually changing hourly. In the stuff that service centers are going to see, yes, it's probably more of like a monthly schedule. And there are going to be, this landscape is going to look totally different a year from now and look completely different and totally operationalized 5 years from now. And it's going to have integrations with things we can't even imagine. Carm's going to slow me down here because I'm going to start talking about brain-computer interfaces and augmented reality and all this crazy stuff that's coming.
But don't rule it out because you think it's going to be different in 30 days. I think when you get into something that is moving this quickly, you have to be almost bold italic. You have to be ready to accept what's coming up and out, because if you thought what this product was going to make you a better company now, what could it do in another, again, to your point, 6 months, 8, 9 months, a year down the road, if we embrace this and make it part of our business? I love the idea that there will be updates and upgrades and you're willing to listen to me because my people have feedback to come back to the software company. I'm at this embracing it, even though we're here to talk about AI and what AI is kind of doing in our customer relationship. I know we've kind of gone off the path a little bit, but I think it's almost worth having gone over and realizing that the AI technology, who was it, John? I think you were telling me, all these companies, they want to show you all this stuff, and you're like at a kid in a candy store. But there's a reality check that has to happen with any piece of software that is going to change the face of how you operate.
Yeah, we have a term in the AI space that all this stuff is as bad as it's going to be right now. The speed at which everything is going to keep getting better, keep getting more integrated, keep being more capable. I mean, I like to think a little bit back to when we had dial-by phone number systems. You remember if a robot picked up the phone, you were pounding the 0 key just trying to get to a person because you didn't want to deal with those things. But now I almost kind of like, I mean, they're so good at this point. Many of them, you don't mind talking to them because like it can understand you now. If you say 1, you're not screaming 1 into the phone, and it'll get you where you need to go. And it has API access to the tools that it needs to answer your questions. And yes, that means customer service is being automated and operationalized and people's jobs are being changed or eliminated. But what that also means is that when something's really tricky and complicated, well, that's when you really need the human. And so the net march overall of over time is to better operations and just being able to do more with less. Yeah, it's going to keep moving real quick.
Real quick, no doubt. Some of the things that you look at of what can it not do, right? And, you talked about it's friendly and you have a phone system that's answering the phone. Well, the algorithm is written in such that it is friendly. It does agree with you. That's one of the other aspects that kind of changes because people begin to believe it regardless. And that's where they're coming back in our door and saying, hey, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever says this is what's wrong with my car. And how do you combat that? Because it is nice. And if you look, I want to say it was a Harvard Business Review that did a poll. And let's see if I want to say that they talked about the number one thing that it's used for is therapy and companionship. Now think about that. And then you take generations that have been prone to playing on a telephone that hadn't had situations to where they've had to communicate. Growing up in this business, you think about what has helped you get to this point. John, I don't know how long you've been in it, but I was walking around the shop since I could walk. And it was nothing but sheer grit. And you had to figure it out. I tell some of the people sometimes I'm like, and this was years ago, this changed now. I didn't have Google. I had to figure it out. And that's where it's changing the fact of you've got an algorithm written, so something's sweet to you and you believe it. And then the customer comes and is like, well, the reality is X. And how do you cross that barrier with something that they're literally becoming friends with? It is not even human, right?
Right. Well, this is the issue of sycophancy in AI. It's been known for a long time since GPT, 2 rolled out that these algorithms, they're built to please and to get to results. And it being totally factually accurate has not actually been the backbone of the technology, out of necessity, essentially. But now, as you look at companies like Gemini, right, Google, all of the world's available information on the internet, then having an LLM trained on all of that, the level came up so far. So the AI's depth of knowledge has come so far, is going to continue as we continue to build data centers and massive training models, multi-trillion-dollar models. or multi-trillion-dollar point models. And yeah, essentially that sycophancy element starts to drop away. And I think a lot of these models know how important it is that the models don't just tell you you're right about everything or say they're certain about something, but that is going to continue for some time. It just brings it back to how important that human in the loop is. Right. And if a customer walks in and they think, ChatGPT told them, oh yeah, it said my vacuum wheel ends are bad. Well, this is 2025. Those are not vacuum wheel ends. And you can even show them that actually is an opportunity for you to earn credibility. And I think people are also becoming quite aware that they're like, AI is not right about everything every time. Right.
So guys, that counter is more important than ever. And when you're dealing with service advisor training, I've got to look at a recent class outline, but there's got to be, how does AI fit the place of building trust in my client? Because they're going to walk in there with what they believe is ChatGPT or Google or Gemini told me this is what's wrong, and they're waiting to see what you have to say. There's almost like proof to me that what I know is not right or wrong. And I think our dealing with that individual, maybe getting to the root of, well, great. It used to be my brother's uncle who had a shop 20 years ago told me this is the problem. And he doesn't really know, but this individual believes he's right and you may not be. And I'm not saying the crumbling of that wall, but I think the buy-in between the knowledge relationship of the client and what AI is, if you will, pushing them in, the AI is pushing them into your place, no matter if it's pulling them in from your research, your website, but they're being pushed in with a level of knowledge that they think is right.
They're using that as a single source of truth. And what you, in our opinion, can't do is disregard that. When they come in and say, well, that's AI, it doesn't know what it's talking about. Immediately, they're going to shut you off because you're talking about their friend that they trust. So it's a matter of changing your, I'll call it your sales process, and really just asking questions, to a degree until you can create that connection and not completely side with it, but understand what they did to get to where they're at, right? Asking, what did AI tell you?
Open-ended questions.
Exactly. So what symptoms did you prompt it with? Okay. And then all of a sudden, you're creating that bond and that connection with them so you can kind of set AI aside and then pick up and move forward with reality.
There's an interesting dynamic that's going to start to play out over time here as well, that there's going to be, just like in many parts of our society, there's going to be the haves and the have-nots. The people who are using the free version of ChatGPT and Gemini will be getting less knowledge and less capable assistance from their friend. And then the folks that are paying for the $200 Ultra account, they've got, literally a whole server farm working for them and giving them probably better data. And so you're going to need to identify who's showing up and with what level of information in your shop, when perhaps the shop can provide tools to them in that space where you're like, hey, I pay a lot of money for this and you're welcome to use it.
Right. Alex, you said something earlier and just glazed right over it, but you said a human in the loop. And that is really what this is centered around. That's an important concept for people to understand.
And it's not just applicable to what we're doing in the service centers. It's right. AI in general, human in the loop.
I got to jump in because I remember recently saying this on an episode, can't remember which one, by working with your client and say, I'm your Google. All the stuff that Google needs to know happens in those bays every day for the last 25 or 50 years. We've got that collective knowledge. So next time you have a problem, and I appreciate you wanting to go to Google, I get it, this is how life works today. But I'm your Google, I'm your chat. Do me a favor, here's my private number, here's my text, call me. Instead of just speaking into your phone, speak into my ear.
That's one of the things that's happening also, and you talk about AI and you talk about efficiency and time frame. Well, you take a service advisor that has an issue and gets challenged like that, they need to have gone to chat or gone to Claude or whatever and attempted to do that so that they can really arm themselves with the potential of what they're going to be faced. building models to help meet objections. It's no different than, well, this part, open the hood and the alternator's right there. What do you think that customer's going to do? That's different between it buried up under the car, can't see it, don't know what it is, and alternator's an alternator, but they open the hood, they set alternator, they're going to Google, they have a price. Your advisors need to at least be armed with a price that's common across platforms. Not saying your margins need to meet that, but then you start selling the value. This is the same thing when it comes to diagnosing a car and repairing a car with customers coming in. You need to have armed yourself with the information to understand what objections you need to meet when it comes to a true solution to the car and the fix.
Don't get me started, because they click on it, there's the alternator, there's a price, there's all kinds of shopping prices that you get, and then you come in and you tell them 2 or 3 times what that is. And I've recently had some interesting discussions with shop owners about how are we going to be pricing our parts in the future, because that access is there.
And you're taking, again, that takes time. And part of that, how do you balance the AI to do that side of it versus the face time? Because again, that takes time on that front counter.
And we've got to test. Just because 75% of what AI thinks is wrong with that vehicle, we have to prove it. We don't want to put a part on that. It could be something very simple that's causing that problem.
You almost use AI as their first attempt at a repair. Well, that didn't work. So now this is what we have to do.
Listen, take 2 aspirins, call me in the morning. And if that doesn't work, come back in 3 days. We may have to give you a big pill.
There you go. WebMD, right?
I know. Oh, my God.
We're at a crossroads for the testing part of it, though, from that standpoint, because trying to communicate that to your client after they come in extremely sure about that information that they just found from their guy. It's kind of funny on that note, like I've been in this industry for 17 years now. And when I first started, and everybody had a guy, but it was always you had someone you called. Now everybody's guy is Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT. That's all shifting. But now they come in with this information and they're adamant. They just want this part replaced and they know what it costs. So try to sell testing to somebody who already has all the answers.
Are they really your client, John?
I think the dynamic is changing across the board. Even your own clients are coming in with that type of information because they can access it so quickly. So great longtime customers are doing some of their own research because information is so readily available. It just creates one more layer to peel through when they get to you.
Instead of saying, just go take it down to John, he'll know what's wrong with it. People have this doom scrolling time on their hands. I don't even want to mention what I think is the number of hours a day that they bask in limitless duh. Yeah, you can quote me on that. Again, it goes back to some of the things we were talking about is trust in the beginning and how important it is at your counters that we continue to develop that, show a great surgical solution to the problem of this vehicle, and hopefully prevent them from going out and consulting with their, as you call them, friends, Chat, Gemini, etc.
I will say that with some of these beneficial programs that we're adding in, I mean, did you talk about the benefits and the negatives to AI? But some of the benefits are that with all of these extra tools that we're getting in with the point of sale systems and the technology that's being added, you don't have to go out and find someone with 20 years of experience to put on the counter anymore. Now what's happening is you can go out there and look for personality, someone that can really draw in and make relationships with your clients because all the other stuff is all at their fingertips, whether it be with their team or the tools that you put in front of them. You have the ability to really focus in on the personality of the person that's on the counter now, as opposed to being a little bit handcuffed to trying to find a balance between the two.
Very true statement. That happens with the technicians as well. You take a young guy. My first experience with, let's call it AI, ChatGPT, it came out in November, I think, of 22. I listened to a podcast in December of 22. Came in, logged in, was like, well, I don't want a bunch of emails from these crazy people, whoever it is. But then I started playing with it and was like, oh, wait a minute, this is something completely different. A little while later, built a custom GPT and have been using it for, 3 years. But what you find is you can take a lesser level skilled technician and bring them up to a degree a lot faster. And the same thing happens on the counter. but it's a matter of you get them to that point, but then you also have to reel them back because that'll be their single source of truth and they have no discernment at that point. They're just thoughts flop. It's just like whatever it said, that's what it is. And then you have technicians that don't grow into top level technicians because they're hindered from not truly having to struggle and having to fight through a true diagnosis. Because at the end of the day, it's really good. It's getting better, but it can't make a physical decision when you have two options. It doesn't know how to discern. It has no common sense. And really, that's really what most of this is using good common sense.
Yeah, Brian, you touched on something that's been very important for us. For our ramp, we don't position our AI as some God that has every answer. It is not that at all. It is going to be wrong about things. It's the whole structure of the app and the personality of the AI that's working with the technicians is their helper. It's their assistant. It's helping them get things done. It's their note taker. It's their information regurgitator. It's their gopher. And that is super, super important. I mean, I think with AI, one of the challenges in the whole world is that the big labs, the Anthropics, the OpenAIs, the Geminis, they've really positioned AI as if it's got all the answers. It knows everything. It's going to take everyone's job. And it's this way overpromise with the capabilities of it and the excitement where while there is still tremendous value and potential in it, but this kind of expectation setting that, oh yeah, it's right about everything. I wanted to ask you guys, because you've spent so much time interfacing with customers in your shops, would you say, though, that the overall net effect of people having access to Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, and this, and being able to do some of their own research has been generally positive with them coming with at least a better understanding that you can kind of pick up from there? Or would you say it's been negative and you have to spend way more time undoing the confusion and the damage, statistically?
I'll say just as a gut, I think it's a net positive. What we're stuck in the middle of is transitioning between what used to be and where this is headed and knowing where to focus our attention. And what I mean by that is people are coming in armed with more information. And there are times, John, where it's like, wow, all right, the testing side of this is going to be $200. And because you've been in the industry so long that he knows exactly what's wrong with the car. So the balance between that, but I think that, I don't know. I really hadn't really thought about it like that, Alex, but there may be this level of trust that it's increasing because as a whole, unfortunately, one or two shops give the industry a lack of trust overall that we have to work so hard. We joked years ago, all right, put your boxing gloves on. This one's mad. He's been somewhere and it's done this or that. But maybe a little bit of that knowledge could be more thought of as a positive. It's just a matter of how do we handle it? How do we change our mindset to handle it a little bit differently? And it also comes all the way back down to just a human connection with trust.
I totally agree with that, Brian. And I think from what we've seen, for the most part, it depends on the area of the business, right? So if you have your general client calling in, they have more information that's unproven. But by the time you get to a point in the process with their vehicle in your care, and you start describing to them what you're going to do and what it's going to cost and setting the expectations for that, they have access to seeing exactly what you're talking about online. So once they start doing their own research, I think it validates some of the costs that are accrued, the expertise. I think it levels up their mindset of us as an industry to an extent, because now for the first time, they have access to seeing some of the true processes that we're going through to repair these vehicles and the extent of what it takes to prove some of the problems that they have in front of them with their vehicles. It's not just a standard check engine light where you're plugging in, pulling codes, and that scan tool that you have that's magic is telling you what's wrong with it. They can actually see some of the testing procedures that we have to go to get there. So I think it is adding some trust to the businesses as a whole. It just depends on, are you getting them in? Are you disarming them on the front end and then gaining that trust on the back end when you start proving that you have the knowledge to take care of them at the level that you promised?
Disarms the word. Well, hey guys, I got to tell you, we could probably talk for 2 or 3 hours. This could become a Joe Rogan podcast, but we try to keep ours within a 45 to 50 minute zone. But this was great. At the end of every episode, I always say we may have to do this again because we didn't cover it all. But look, I got to thank you for being here. Brian, thank you so much for tossing this topic up to me. Appreciate that. Brian Weeks from ATC Auto Centers. Jon Kloosterman, thank you so much, Director of Ops at Westside Auto Group. And Alex, founder of OnRamp at getonramp.io. Guys, this was fabulous, eye-opening. I didn't hear a redundant word from any of the other episodes that we've covered. This is really leaning forward and with some really deep think. And, ever since 2015, when I started to come up with this great phrase, listen to learn just one thing, and I recently added and implement it. And so I asked my listener if you've done mental note-taking, and if not, you've done pen to paper note-taking, look at some of these key takeaways, find that one thing and decide to make a move on it, because I think then you'll get some value from this episodic education that we hold for you each and every week. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Carm,
for having me.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive repair business podcast, Remarkable Results Radio. Get your episodic education on the ARPN listening app at automotiverepairpodcastnetwork.com. Also enjoy the podcast on our Carm Capriotto YouTube channel. Carm is all for advancing the professional automotive service industry. Until next time.